and then we'll take it from there, if that's all right.
Honorable members of British Parliament, distinguished guests, respected delegates, civil society activists, human rights defenders, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. I am privileged and honored to speak before this august gathering. First of all, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to our sympathizers, supporters, and comrades, MP Richard Burton, for hosting this conference and granting us this opportunity to share our miseries and insights. We hold great respect and appreciation for MP Fabian Hamilton, who is unable to be present here due to his health issue. We deeply miss him and extend our sincere prayers and good wishes for his speedy recovery and complete good health. His presence has always given us greater strength and energy. We are grateful to the members of the House of Commons and other civil society representatives. It is truly an honor to have them here. My appreciation extends to the United Kashmir People's National Party, United Kingdom, for their dedication and proactive role in organizing the 5th International Conference in this prestigious building, a forum renowned for its contribution to the rule of law, democratic values, freedom of expression, and secularism and equality. Today's conference is titled The Jammu-Kashmir Conflict and the Role of British Government. We are assembled here to discuss one of the oldest unresolved conflicts in the modern world and examine the role of the British government in this long-standing dispute. Today, I stand before you not merely as the chairman of the United Kashmir People's National Party, but as a representative of millions of voiceless people of Jammu and Kashmir, whose aspirations, sacrifices, and democratic rights have been ignored for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, one cannot discuss the Kashmir dispute honestly without acknowledging its historical context and the role played by British colonial policy in shaping the tragic destiny of our region. The partition of the Indian subcontinent in 1947 was not simply a transfer of power. It was a hurried and deeply flawed process whose consequences continue to haunt generations. Decisions made in distant corridors of power created fault lines and transformed entire population into victims of forced division, uncertainty, conflict, and displacement. The case of Jammu and Kashmir, not merely a territorial issue, it involved a historic state with a distinct identity, a diverse population, and political future that requires carefully and responsible handling. Instead, strategic calculation and geopolitical interest overshadowed the rights and aspirations of its people. Historical record and political discussion surrounding figures such as George Cunningham, the governor of Pakistan, one of the province, along with the front, at that time it was the name of NWFP, Northwest Frontier Province of Pakistan. And Major William Brown, he was actually the head of the Galgit Scouts, to raise profound questions regarding British role during that decisive period. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also important to acknowledge the role played by Lord Mountbatten during this critical period, historical accounts suggest that Lord Mountbatten, he was Lord of Viceroy of subcontinent, the India. Lately, he was the Governor General of the Indian government after the division of India. It is regarding the Jammu Kashmir. He exercised considerable influence upon Maharaja Hari Singh. He was the ruler of state of Jammu and Kashmir. Regarding the future of Jammu and Kashmir and the question of accession to either India or Pakistan, at such a critical moment in history, it would have served justice and stability far better if the Maharaja had been allowed to decide freely and independently without external pressure and geopolitical calculation. Jammu Kashmir was not merely a strategic territory, it was a historic state whose future required careful, impartial, and responsible handling. Instead, British political and administrative actors became deeply involved in shaping during the final days of colonial rule over the subcontinent. This pattern of British involvement, however, did not begin in 1947. We must recall an earlier and profoundly consequential warning, one that speaks directly to the responsibilities of power. On 7th January 1848, shortly after the creation of the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir under the Treaty of Amritsar of 1846, Henry Harding first was called Harding issued a formal warning to the Maharaja Gulab Singh, the founding father of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. In essence, the British government declared that it would not support or protect rulers who oppressed his people, and that if misrule continued, British reserved the right to intervene directly in the administration of the state. The warning explicitly stated that while the British government would fulfill its treaty obligations towards its allies, it would not become the blind instrument of a ruler's injustice toward his people. Furthermore, if the ruler of misconduct caused the people to reject his authority, British was bound by no obligation to force the people to submit continued oppression or maladministration. The warning made clear. I will, due to the paucity of time, I will skip some paragraph and going to in the conclusions. Ladies and gentlemen, the Gilgit rebellion remained one of the most controversial chapters of Kashmir history. The development that unfolded in Gilgit were not merely local events. They carried immense geopolitical implications. Many historians and political observers argue that action and strategic calculations during that period contributed significantly to altering the future trajectory of the Jammu and Kashmir and undermined the possibilities of an independent political course. These events reshaped history, but the people of Jammu and Kashmir were never genuinely consulted. Their consent was absent. Their aspirations were ignored, and history reminds us of the simple truth. When the destiny of the nation is described without the participation of the people themselves, instability becomes inevitable. It is essential to acknowledge that the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir is a single political entity and remains a long-lasting political dispute. The forced division and annexation of the region have had profound adverse effect on the people, social fabric, culture, and politics. Attempt to promote religious intolerance and hatred were further divided the people of Jammu and Kashmir, fueled extremism, violence, and terrorism. These pressing issues demand urgent attention from the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, despite Jammu and Kashmir being on the UN agenda since 1948 and multiple UN resolutions alongside the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights reports on Kashmir of 2018 and 2019, the region plight continued. The European Parliament in 2007 a report on Kashmir and Pakistan Constitutional Article 257, which recognizes Jammu and Kashmir as a disputed territory, further underscored the unresolved status of the region. The 1947, the Treaty of Accession with India emphasized India's responsibility to protect the life, liberty and property of the people. We urge the government of Pakistan and India to respect the Jammu Kashmir State Subject Rule of 1947, which prohibit outsiders and purchasing property in the region. This rule plays a crucial role in preserving the special status and identity of the Jammu and Kashmir. India and Pakistan have no right to unilaterally decide the fate of any part of the formerly princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. India's entry into Jammu and Kashmir was based on a provisional treaty that explicitly outlined its primary responsibility protecting the life, liberty and property of the people. The people of Jammu and Kashmir expecting India as a democratic and responsible nation to honor this agreement. However, despite UN resolutions on Kashmir, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights report and other European Parliament Resolution 2007, India on 5th August 2019 unilaterally dismembered the historical state of Jammu and Kashmir into two separate union territories. This action, coupled with the revocations of Article 370 and 35A, raises fundamental question about the state accession. Furthermore, forced division, annexation, and unilaterally decision based on military power and majoritarianism have deepened under caste extremism and regional communal tensions. Ladies and gentlemen, for the most 8 decades, Jammu and Kashmir has remained trapped in a cycle of conflict, militarization, hostilities. Families have endured pain, displacement, and suffering. The unresolved nature of this conflict has not openly affected the people of Jammu and Kashmir. It has also held hostage the future of the South Asia. The two nuclear powers of the region continue to confront each other over Kashmir. Massive resources are diverted towards military competition, while millions across the region continue to struggle against poverty, inequality, climate changes, and underdevelopment. The region possesses immense human potential, economic capacity, and cultural richness. Yet the unresolved Kashmir dispute continue to generate an atmosphere of permanent instability, hostility, and mistrust. We urge the government of Pakistan and local authorities in Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan to restrain the use of force and to provide basic facilities and fundamental rights to the people while fulfilling promises made with the Joint Awami Action Committee. Just I am going to end my speech within 2 or 3 paragraphs. We fully support the resolution passed by the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly demanding the restoration of when we are referring to the Jammu Kashmir Assembly, means the Srinagar Assembly, demanding the restoration of special status and full statehood, which reflects the aspirations of the people. This conference urged respect for such democratic demand and call on India to restore special status and statehood and release all those detainees who are in the since many years, but they have no fair trial. The Indian judiciary has totally compromised or criminalized, and the people who are many years in the jail, but the judiciary is not entertaining their bail applications. So this kind of situation, we think that the British Parliament and the parliamentarians, especially like Richard Douglas, who are the internationalists, and the role of British Parliament is very important for the world peace and stability. So we think that we need the attention of the British Parliament and also the government of Great Britain to discharge the obligation and historical duties, because this conflict was created by some of the basically those officers, British officers who were stationed in Belgium or in Srinagar, and especially the governor George Kenningham, who sent, he was involved to attack, pushing some of the tribal chiefs. That's why we are facing worse kind of discrimination and killings of the people, irrespective who is Muslim or who is non, and millions of people were displaced, and especially from Jammu, the Muslims were facing massacres, and here in which is known as Azad Kashmir, Hindus and the other religious minorities was severely actually pushed to displace these areas. So the evacuation property was just the government of Pakistan and its administrative part allotted those who are actually serving the sovereign interests of India or Pakistan. So we need the special attention to resolve this issue, which is actually affecting the millions of the Kashmiris and the Indians and the Pakistanis. Now, India and Pakistan also facing the poverty, severe poverty. Rich become more richer and poor become more poorer. Hundreds and thousands of people live without the shelter. But both the government invest and use the natural resources and national resources to build the military empire. That military are not serving the region's protection, but it is to protect those who believe majoritarianism, who believe in power, and the government of India and Pakistan is not ready to listen to the voices of the democratic voices of the Kashmiri people as well Indian and Pakistani. And both the region, not only but India and Pakistani people, they are also suffering due to this issue. In the name of Kashmir issue, actually, the government of India and government of Pakistan, they suppress the genuine civil society voices, suppress them and hold the power. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for that very useful history lesson. Thank you. And I'll, if I can be sent this by WhatsApp as well, this speech, I'll be able to circulate to some of my colleagues who couldn't come today. That was a really useful historical summary and description of the situation that we have now. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce my good friend and West Yorkshire neighbour, Iqbal Mohammed, who's made